President Obama has several major crises he is trying to work through, and his workload for the next few days at least clearly shows a White House trying to rally support and demonstrate to the world that they have a handle on global affairs. That, according to an editorial in the Washington Post, it says, quote, "The schedule reflects the whiplash inside the West Wing as the crises on three continents have helped sow doubts about U.S. leadership abroad and preoccupied Obama and his advisors less than 2 months before the midterm elections." Joining us now, Joe Trippi, manager of Howard Dean's 2004 presidential campaign, Ed Rollins, 1984 national campaign director for President Reagan. Both are Fox News contributors. Welcome to both of you.
Good afternoon.
Good to be with you.
Joe, how would you say the president is doing in his handling of these crises right now? You've got Ukraine, you've got Syria. Give us your assessment.
Well, look, I think he's doing what he thinks is the right thing to do. The problem for him is none of these are politically easy crisis to deal with in the political environment we are in with this election coming up. So I think the measurement is out on whether these programs, these policies will work or not. If they appear to be working and they get better, that's going to improve his standing with the American electorate, but it won't be in time in any way, shape, or form to undo the damage in terms of how it's going to impact Democrats who are standing on the ballot in November of 2014. It's just not. That's 75 days away from now. If the Ukrainian policies worked, if the policies in the Middle East worked, if Ebola started to turn down, the credit for that is not going to happen until far after this election. That's the problem for Democrats that are standing in November.
There was also in that article, that piece in the Washington Post, it quotes a former administration official named Rosa Brooks, who worked at the Pentagon from 2009 to 2011. Here's what she says. She says, "There's a sense that there hasn't been a clear strategy, and the White House has been buffeted by events, that they make decisions over whatever the political pressures are felt most strongly at any given time, rather than out of a consistent approach to foreign policy that transcends the day-to-day crisis." What do you think about that?
I think she's very accurate in her statement. I think part of the problem this president has had, and we never want a weakened president in a time of crisis like we are today, is that they do look at the polls too much, and the polls are not very supportive. This president has to show great strength. He has now committed us to a third war in the Middle East. Whatever they want to call it, is a war against ISIS. If it is as serious a threat as they say it is, then I think we need to use every resource. And the idea that we're willing to send 3,000 troops to West Africa to fight Ebola, and say 400 troops go to the Middle East to fight ISIS and to retrain people who've already been routed. The Iraq military and the Syrian rebels have already been battered back. So the fact that you put 400 trainers on the ground and they're going to try and make this thing work is a real challenge. I think General Dempsey's statements today will preclude further statements in which we're not going to get it done unless we put American troops on the ground. And if it's that important, let's get it done.
Joe, I want to play for you a section of the president's speech from last week, the Wednesday night speech, the primetime address at the White House. It was supposed to be all about ISIS and the threat and how we were going to handle it. And then the president said this. Listen.
Our technology companies and universities are unmatched. Our manufacturing and auto industries are thriving. Energy independence is closer than it's been in decades. For all the work that remains, our businesses are in the longest uninterrupted stretch of job creation in our history.
Republicans and maybe some Democrats, but Republicans were a little ticked at that, Joe. They said, this was supposed to be a speech about this grave foreign policy crisis, and the president, starts touting his economic record. Are they correct in their criticism?
Look, I don't think so. Look, the president addressing the country, one of the things with this new media environment that we're in, and I don't mean just cable, I'm talking about potentially really Twitter, social media, is the bad news is trumpeted and spread virally all over the place, and the good news that really is happening in the United States, it doesn't get out unless the president says something about it. He's got every right to do that, and he's to do it in a national address to the people makes perfect sense to me, particularly, again, given the elections are coming up in November. Let's not kid ourselves. Obviously, those were statements aimed at helping to bolster his numbers. I don't think any of these numbers are going to change between now and November, though.
The part I found weird about it, Ed, is that we added no net manufacturing jobs last month, and over the course of the year, we're only up 1% in manufacturing jobs. It's not exactly an area of strength for the U.S. economy.
He can use all the talking points he wants. Nobody's going to believe it across the country. And at the end of the day here, this was supposed to be a very serious speech when you ask for a nationwide audience to address a very significant threat to this country. And it's not the time to basically do your talking points about the economy or anything else. At the end of the day, he didn't fill in the details on the speech. It was a well-delivered speech, but there was no substance to it. We still don't know how we're going to get this job done. We've now committed ourselves, and for his presidency, the rest of his presidency, the man who won the Nobel Peace Prize might as well send the award back to Stockholm, because he's going to spend the next 2 years, every single day, the first thing he's going to get on his desk is the results of what happened against ISIS the next day, the former day. So my sense is this needed to be a very serious speech. It didn't turn out to be that. And I think media will be far less reluctant. I don't disagree with Joe that there's a lot of ways to get your message out. But if it's not a true message and people don't believe the message, you can send it any way you want to, and it's not going to matter. This is the issue right today, is this ISIS battle. And that ISIS battle, they think at the White House, is going to go on at least 3 years, well into the next administration. Ed Rollins, Joe Trippi, thank you both. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.